Europe has drawn millions of tourists from all over the globe, attracted to its rich history, picturesque landscapes, and iconic cities. Europe consistently ranks as the world's most popular tourist destination, welcoming over 700 million international visitors annually. This means nearly half of all global travelers choose Europe as their vacation spot. But in recent years, overtourism has become a major issue in popular European cities, leading to strained infrastructure, skyrocketing rent prices, pollution, and a deteriorating quality of life for locals. In this video, we will explore 10 European cities that have been dramatically impacted by the effects of overtourism. Number 1. Venice, Italy. It's one of the most enchanting cities in the world, with its iconic canals, intricate bridges, and historic charm. It's a place that feels like stepping back in time, a city built on water, floating in its own unique rhythm. This Italian city is one of the world's most romantic and iconic destinations. But while Venice's allure attracts millions each year, its popularity is pushing the city to the brink by overtourism. Venice sees over 20 million tourists annually. That's over 50,000 visitors every day, more than its population. With this massive influx of tourists, Venice has become a city under constant strain. One of the most significant symbols of overtourism in Venice is the cruise ships. These cruise ships alone bring thousands of tourists in one day, overwhelming the city in hours. The heavy foot traffic, crowded gondolas, and constant boat movement aren't just inconveniences. They're taking a serious toll on Venice's fragile foundation. The sheer volume of visitors daily overwhelms Venice's narrow alleys and public spaces. On any given day, thousands of tourists pack into popular areas, leading to congestion that can make movement nearly impossible. Rising costs, noise, and overcrowding are forcing residents out. Every year, more locals leave, turning Venice into more of a tourist attraction than a living city. Imagine trying to live here, doing your grocery shopping, going to work, or simply walking around, in crowds this intense. Perhaps the most telling sign of Venice's overtourism problem is its rapidly declining population. In the past 70 years, the number of permanent residents has dropped from around 175,000 to under 50,000 today. Rising living costs and the limited availability of housing, as more properties are converted into short-term rentals, have driven many Venetians out of the city they love. Number 2. Barcelona, Spain. A city with breathtaking architecture, vibrant art, and a culture that's famous around the world. It's a place where history and modern life blend beautifully, making it one of Europe's top travel destinations. But the same popularity that brings so many visitors has led to a crisis: overtourism. Every year, this beautiful city hosts over 32 million tourists, despite having a population of just 1.6 million. The overwhelming influx of visitors is taking a heavy toll on Barcelona's historic sites, neighborhoods, and way of life. With so many tourists crowding the streets daily, locals face skyrocketing rents and rising costs of living. Traditional neighborhoods, once filled with local shops and markets, are now dominated by souvenir stands, Airbnb rentals, and businesses catering mainly to tourists. For many Barcelonans, these changes are erasing the city's unique character and making daily life difficult. Local culture is being pushed aside, with longtime residents moving out of the city center due to high costs and constant crowds. In response, locals have taken to the streets protesting over tourism and calling for change. Their message is clear: Barcelona should not be reduced to a playground for visitors. As part of a larger effort to protect the city, local authorities have introduced regulations like limiting short-term rentals and imposing tourist taxes. While tourism remains vital to Barcelona's economy, many believe a balance must be found to preserve what makes the city so special. Number 3. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Amsterdam's rise in popularity over the last few decades has brought significant economic benefits, no doubt. In 2019, the city welcomed around 20 million tourists, nearly 20 times its population. But all of this traffic comes at a price. With more tourists pouring in every year, Amsterdam's streets, historic sites, and neighborhoods are feeling the strain. Amsterdam's central neighborhoods, like the Red Light District and the picturesque Jordaan, are now packed with people year-round. Streets are filled with tourists, sometimes leaving locals unable to navigate their own city. The iconic canals, once peaceful, are now swarmed with rented boats and tour cruises. Residents feel the effects most strongly. They experience noise at all hours, crowded sidewalks, and even limited access to local shops that now cater primarily to tourists. With rising demand for accommodation in Amsterdam has increased, housing and rent prices have climbed. The popularity of Airbnb rentals has taken over residential spaces, pushing up costs and making it difficult for many families and longtime residents to afford staying in their own neighborhoods. Amsterdam housing costs, up 40% over 5 years. It's not just the culture that's affected. The environmental impact of overtourism is also becoming a serious problem. Popular spots are now littered with trash, and the historic canals require more frequent cleaning due to pollution. It's a beautiful city, but the constant crowd makes it hard to enjoy. Sometimes I have to avoid certain areas entirely. Number 4, Dubrovnik, Croatia, known as the Pearl of the Adriatic, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with ancient walls and stunning coastal views. But behind this picture-perfect city is a problem that's causing cracks in its charm: overtourism. Dubrovnik is now hosting over 1.4 million tourists annually. That's about 30 times its local population. The rapid rise in tourism brings in great economic benefits, but Dubrovnik's infrastructure wasn't designed to handle this level of traffic. With just 40,000 residents, the small city now faces huge challenges trying to keep up. One of the biggest contributors to overtourism in Dubrovnik is cruise ship tourism. On some days, up to 10,000 passengers arrive within hours, flooding the narrow streets all at once. Each cruise ship that docks releases pollution into the air and water, putting additional stress on Dubrovnik's ecosystem. The charm of Dubrovnik lies in its historic culture and local way of life. But for residents, the city is becoming harder to live in. Many homes in the old town have been converted into tourist rentals. Dubrovnik residents love our city, but it's hard to live here now. The prices are high, and the crowds are constant. It doesn't feel like home anymore. Dubrovnik's beauty isn't just in its walls, but overtourism has left parts of the coastline littered, and the strain on resources, from water to waste management, has escalated. The city's narrow medieval streets also suffer from overuse, with cobblestones and ancient structures bearing the brunt of daily wear and tear. Number 5, Paris, France. Paris, the city of lights, a place of romance, history, and art. Millions dream of visiting this cultural capital. Paris is one of the world's most visited cities, attracting over 30 million tourists each year. It's easy to see why, with landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and Notre Dame. But with millions visiting year-round, Paris faces challenges in keeping up with the high volume of people. The streets are often crowded, public transport systems stretched thin, and some of the city's most beloved spots have become almost too crowded for both locals and tourists. For Parisians, overtourism means dealing with daily crowds and congestion, especially around popular areas like Montmartre, the Latin Quarter, and the Marais. As more visitors pour in, everyday life in these neighborhoods becomes increasingly difficult. Tourist demand has also driven up the cost of living. Many apartments in central Paris have been converted into short-term rentals, which reduces housing availability and raises prices. With so many visitors, there's an environmental cost as well. The volume of waste from food, shopping, and packaging is immense, and maintaining these areas is a constant challenge for city services. Parisian authorities are working to find solutions to balance the city's appeal with preserving its identity. The city has started experimenting with crowd control measures, like timed entry tickets for certain sites. Number 6, Rome, Italy. Rome, the Eternal City. Known for its timeless beauty, art, and architecture, it's one of the most captivating cities in the world. But in recent years, Rome has been facing a modern challenge: overtourism. Rome attracts around 10 million tourists annually, drawn to iconic sites like the Colosseum and Trevi Fountain. With a population of under 3 million, the city faces overcrowding at major landmarks, leaving locals to contend with packed streets, crowded public transport, and the challenge of preserving Rome's charm amidst the influx. Overtourism in Rome affects both historic sites and local life. In popular neighborhoods like Trastevere, more rentals are turning into tourist accommodations, driving up living costs and reducing housing availability for residents. The impact of tourism in Rome is not only cultural, but also physical. Ancient monuments like the Colosseum, Spanish Steps, and Trevi Fountain, over 2,000 years old, are strained by millions of visitors, leading to issues like foot traffic, litter, and occasional damage. These sites require constant care and restoration, which is both costly and time-consuming. And in busy seasons, managing waste and maintaining cleanliness across the city becomes a major challenge for the city's services. In response to these challenges, Rome has taken steps to protect its heritage, from limiting access to certain sites to imposing rules against sitting or snacking on iconic landmarks. City officials are trying to balance tourism with preservation. Rome's story has spanned thousands of years, and today it faces a new chapter in the era of overtourism. Number 7, Prague, Czech Republic. Prague, the city of 100 spires, known for its enchanting architecture, medieval charm, and cobblestone streets. Prague has transformed over the last 2 decades from a hidden gem in Europe to a top global destination. With over 8 million tourists arriving each year, its popularity comes with some serious side effects. The city's iconic sites like Charles Bridge, Old Town Square, and the astronomical clock have become packed with visitors, especially during peak travel seasons. This level of tourism has turned parts of Prague into more of a crowded destination than a peaceful historic city. The city's historic sites were never designed to handle such massive crowds. The cobblestone streets are wearing down, the Charles Bridge endures constant foot traffic, and landmarks like Prague Castle face erosion issues. Charles Bridge, a historic treasure that has stood for centuries, now experiences so much foot traffic that maintenance is ongoing just to keep it safe and intact. With more visitors comes a greater environmental impact. In peak season, streets and squares are littered with waste from food, drinks, and crowded public spaces all contribute to the strain on Prague's environment. The city spends millions each year to manage waste and keep public spaces clean. For Prague's residents, overtourism has changed daily life. Crowded streets and rising prices are just part of the challenge. Many locals feel like strangers in their own city, especially in the old town where tourists dominate the landscape. Housing prices have also increased as many apartments are converted to short-term rentals. Prague is actively working to tackle overtourism by implementing new strategies. The city has introduced timed entry for popular sites like Prague Castle and is focusing on crowd control in the Old Town Square and Charles Bridge. Number 8. Reykjavik, Iceland. Reykjavik, Iceland's charming and colorful capital, is famous for its unique culture, stunning landscapes, and the friendly spirit of its locals. But behind the beauty, overtourism has started to threaten this one-of-a-kind city. Over the past decade, Reykjavik has transformed from a tranquil Nordic capital into a bustling tourist hotspot. In 2019, Iceland welcomed approximately 2 million tourists, a number that has only grown since. This influx has been driven by Iceland's breathtaking landscapes, the allure of the northern lights, and the global popularity of its unique culture and outdoor adventures. The environmental impact of overtourism in Reykjavik is another pressing concern. With more visitors comes greater strain on the city's natural resources and infrastructure. Popular attractions like the Blue Lagoon, Golden Circle routes, and nearby hiking trails are experiencing significant wear and tear from constant foot traffic. Litter and pollution are becoming more noticeable in and around the city, and the increased traffic from tour buses and rental cars contributes to air pollution and noise levels. The surge in tourism in Reykjavik has transformed daily life for locals. Once peaceful streets are now crowded with tourists, making it difficult for residents to go about their routines. Public transportation is often overcrowded, and popular areas like Laugavegur and Austervöllur Square have become busy hotspots. Reykjavik is not blind to these issues. City officials and residents are working hard to find solutions to manage the impact of overtourism. New regulations are being put in place to limit short-term rentals and improve waste management. Number 9. Santorini, Greece. Santorini is a gem of the Aegean Sea, known worldwide for its gorgeous cliffs, whitewashed buildings, and iconic sunsets. For years, it's been a top bucket list destination, attracting millions of tourists who come to experience its beauty, history, and romance. In peak season, though, the island's population surges from about 15,000 residents to over 2 million tourists per year. One of the biggest problems of overtourism in Santorini is overcrowding. During peak season, the island's narrow streets, limited public transport, and inadequate waste facilities face constant pressure. Roads are frequently congested and energy and water supplies are overextended. Locals endure daily disruptions from traffic jams, noise, and heightened pollution, making it difficult for them to maintain their everyday routines. The environmental impact is another serious issue. Santorini has no natural water source and relies on tankers and desalination to supply water. With each visitor adding to the demand, this limited resource is under stress, and unfortunately some popular areas are seeing damage to natural landscapes and more litter left behind. Santorini's delicate environment is bearing the weight of too many footsteps. As tourism grows, more homes are being converted into short-term rentals for tourists, driving up rents and property prices. Many locals are now struggling to afford housing on their own island. To address these issues, Santorini local authorities are taking steps to better manage tourism. They're looking at limiting the number of cruise ships and encouraging visitors to explore during the off-season. Number 10. Hallat, Austria. Hallat was once a quiet lakeside village, known mostly to Austrians and neighboring countries. A picturesque village that looks like it belongs in a storybook. Famous for its breathtaking beauty, Hallat has attracted travelers from around the world, eager to experience its magical charm. Over the last decade, Hallstatt saw a massive influx of tourists, with as many as 10,000 visitors a day at its peak, a staggering number for a town of fewer than 800 residents. From social media fame, fueled by Instagram-worthy shots, to international attention when it was used as inspiration for Disney's Frozen, Hallstatt became the victim of its own allure. The price of fame has come at a cost. Locals face skyrocketing rent, streets clogged with tourists, and a daily life disrupted by flashbulbs and chatter. For some, it feels like living in a theme park, one where they are the exhibits. Beyond the cultural impact, the environment pays a heavy toll. Excessive foot traffic damages the delicate ecosystems around Lake Hallstatt. Pollution from increased boat traffic and littering in the streets strains this once pristine destination. For many locals, the fight is personal. They speak of a yearning for peace, a return to a slower pace, and protection for their town's cultural identity. Their stories paint a picture not of opposition to tourism, but of a desire for balance. Local authorities have implemented measures, limiting buses, capping daily visitor numbers, and even banning drones, to regain some control over tourism's impact. As we've seen, overtourism has a profound impact on some of Europe's most iconic destinations. These cities, each with their unique history, culture, and charm, face complex challenges as they try to balance the needs of locals with the desires of visitors. It's a reminder for all of us. As travelers, we play a role in the preservation and respect of the places we visit. If you're planning a trip to any of these cities, consider ways to be a responsible tourist. Support local businesses, visit during off-peak seasons, explore lesser-known neighborhoods, and always be mindful of your impact. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, don't forget like, share, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments which of these cities you'd love to visit.